Kodiaga. Unajua hizi mambo. All right.
It must be Kingongo. The court has summoned another suspect who's in hiding.
The story is on page 3. This is a accountant general in the finance ministry in Uganda. So this is still a big story in Uganda.
Yeah.
Museveni assures
Ugandans of security, of course, with the discussions going on around the region and with what's happening in the DRC. This is what is happening.
Oh, all right. And Uganda's New Vision still pays tribute to Aga Khan, who died on Thursday, was it on Thursday? And tribute Aga Khan's legacy in Uganda. Kule juu, Judiciary Zeja appointed Deputy Chief Justice, and that story is on page 6 of this newspaper, New Vision. And education, tough rules set for teacher recruitment. All right, that's the New Vision. Daily Monitor, still in Uganda. Aga Khan's footprints in Uganda. And impacting lives, His Highness the Aga Khan invested in health, education, manufacturing, energy, hospitality, and projects that benefited millions of Ugandans. And that story, the Aga Khan, has been given coverage on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 39. Well, Kenya as well will say this about Aga Khan. He was very, very much invested in health, education, sports, media industry right here in Kenya as well. Supreme Court ruling shocked me, says Muhoozi. Now, the Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has said he was surprised by the ruling that court-martial should not try civilians. And this ruling was made earlier this week.
It was actually last week.
It was?
Yes.
Wiki Kiisha.
Wiki Kiisha.
All right. Museveni names Zeja Deputy CJ, and President Museveni has appointed Justice Flavian Zeja, the current principal judge, as the new Deputy Chief Justice. He will replace Justice Butera, who is retiring in April.
Right. That's as far as Uganda is concerned. The crossover to Tanzania, kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi, siri TRA kufungua milango ajira mpya. Sema wa Tanzania wenye sifa na waliosomea taaluma hizi kuula zaidi. Kuula zaidi. TRA atangaza utaratibu kwa waombaji za kuajiri wengi. Wadau watoa angalizo.
All right. Madeleka kuwashitaki waziri, Commissioner DPP. And that story iko katika ukurasa wa 5 wa gazeti hili. Bunge lataka bodaboda kutambuliwa kidijitali. That is so interesting. And you know, we also have electric bodabodas. I don't know if that applies as well. All right. Kule chini, Slaa atimiza siku 28 ndani ya mahabusu. All right. That's Mwananchi. Kule juu, tunaona watendaji wa MCL wamkumbuka Aga Khan kwa mengi. Dar es Salaam, watendaji wakuu wastaafu wa kampuni ya Mwananchi Communications Limited wamemwelezea aliyekuwa kiongozi mkuu. Right, tunaona pale pia Tanzania Aga Khan alikuwa inaitwaje, kigogo katika sekta ya media. The Citizen in Tanzania, government affirms BOT gold reserves are strategic assets, and BOT Governor Emmanuel Tutuba says the central bank retains gold as a strategic asset rather than one for immediate sale, and ensures that contents of its reserves are certified by an accredited refinery. Kama Fred anasema kila wakati, the good thing about this newspapers, story yote iko hapo. That story is on page 2, and we see a quote there. We have a policy of buying gold from small-scale miners and refining before it is held in reserve by BOT. We have requested Barrick to leverage its extensive network to help us in this endeavor. 99.99% gold held in a reserve by EFC Bank of Tanzania, they say has a purity leveled of 99.9% according to the head of country's central bank. All right. Pale Tanzania, the Citizen Peer, they make mention of Aga Khan. They say former MCL leaders speak out on legacy of Aga Khan IV. And former Mwananchi Communications Limited leaders recall how Aga Khan IV's visionaries' guidance helped transform the Nation Media Group and its subsidiaries across the region in line with changes in the global media landscape. Same case kama Kenya too. Kule juu, why smart classrooms have a crucial role in digital transformation. That's a special feature for this newspaper, and that's the Citizen. Let's see. All right, we'll be back to take a look at, okay, that's the regional newspapers. Let's take a look at the weather situation. We start off in Kisumu County. The president will be there today to chair or to as a chief guest for the International Investment Conference that began on Wednesday. And right about now, it's 19 degrees. Highs of 30 degrees expected. It will be sunny throughout. It promises to a little bit of cloud cover. Precipitation 0, so no chances of rain in Kisumu.
All right, let's take a look at Turkana. Turkana, 23 degrees Celsius as we speak, quite hot. Promises to get even hotter, 36 degrees Celsius later in the day. Sunny intervals throughout. A bit of cloud cover, not necessarily something that will be seen. And as far as precipitation, 0. Hakuna mvua Turkana pia.
In Nyeri, 14 degrees, highs of 24. Huko kuna baridi. Promises to be sunny throughout the day, a little bit of a cloud cover throughout the day. Precipitation 0, so no chances of rain in Nyeri.
In Narok, 14 degrees Celsius as we speak. Maeneo ya Narok na Masai Mara kule, highs of 26 degrees Celsius. This is comfortable weather if you want to go for a game drive, probably. Especially the early afternoon, 26 degrees Celsius. Plus, no chance of rain as well in Narok, so a good day for holiday makers.
Nairobi, 17 degrees. Highs of 27 degrees. It will be sunny throughout. Cloud cover pia itakuwa hapo. Precipitation 0. No chances of rain in Nairobi.
Kutanyesha. Hakuna mvua.
Hakuna. Hiyo jua sio ya mvua.
Hiyo jua sio ya mvua. All right, let's take a look at the traffic situation.
All right.
In Nairobi, we'll take a look at the major tributaries. Yes, and you can see the usual trouble spots. Pangani interchange is building slowly. Kama kawaida hapa, we don't expect anything much. It is a Friday. Inaitwa typical Friday traffic. Huwa hakuna pressure sana.
Weekend mode.
So mahali iko shida ni ile tumezoea tu hapa. Pangani interchange, hapa hivi Nyayo Stadium tumezoea. That's it. And probably we'll take a look at the traffic situation later.
Something here.
Which road is that? That's a southern bypass.
Yes.
So we'll try and see what the issue is, but it looks green all over the map. Probably we widen it a bit. We'll take a look at Jogoro tuone kama kuna kitu inaonekana upande huo. Hata internet imeenda Friday
Something
mode.
here at Gikomba Market hapo Marikiti.
Yes. Haile Selassie Avenue, both sides of Haile Selassie Avenue as you get closer to Marikiti there. Before the roundabout to land this road. Both sides of the road are busy. Pandewa Jogoo Road, as you head towards town Makadara, it's building up, but after that it's smooth all the way. Wale wanajaribu kuhepea traffic wakienda upande ile ya Lusaka Road, pale immediately after the roundabout ile pale CMC, kuna traffic mingi sana hapo. So that's the traffic situation in and around Nairobi. Typical Friday traffic, nothing much to worry about. Probably if you want to leave and get early to the office, this is the right time.
Right. Let's take a look at the quote of the day. You have the power to rewrite your story at any point. You are not defined by your past mistakes or failures, but by your ability to rise, to try again, and to keep moving forward with purpose.
All right, it's a Friday, but today let's start with business. So they talk about the housing levy defaulters facing accounts and PIN freezes. Informal sector traders targeted in KRA crackdown. Housing board concerned about low contributions. These are the small organizations that are already making deductions from their employees on their pay slips towards the housing levy, but they're not remitting the same to KRA. So Anambua will freeze your accounts and will also freeze your PIN. And that way your business will not continue. The Business Daily are still having space on the front page to pay tribute to His Highness the Aga Khan, who passed on early this week on Tuesday. Aga Khan funeral set for Saturday is a headline on the front page of this paper. Bus bodybuilder Lab Singh falls as 1 billion shilling KCB loan bites. Kuna basi mingi unakwanga umeona hapo imeandikwa Lab Singh. Lab Singh. It's not a brand. It's it's not a motor vehicle brand, but a bodybuilding company, Lab Singh. But they're saying it's falling because of a 1 billion shilling KCB loan default. Elsewhere on the ticker, banks post 262 billion shilling pre-tax profit on expensive loans that banks are cashing in. Yesterday we saw that headline where the CBK was saying now they'll start fining banks because despite the CBK lowering its base lending rate, the local banks have refused totally to do that. So, but you can actually see the results. They're raking in serious profits. 262 billion shillings pre-tax profit in this kind of economy. Wow.
They're eating big.
I tell you. Elsewhere, Safaricom Ethiopia M-Pesa customers tripled to 10.8 million shillings, where the number of M-Pesa customers in Safaricom's Ethiopia subsidiary more than tripled from 3.1 million to 10.8 million in the 12 months to December 2024. Hey, if you had a business that works like this one, where your customer base can triple within 12 months. Hey.
Na sio Kenya peke yake.
So banks and Safaricom wanakula mzuri.
Yeah.
Elsewhere, speculators drive up stocks of small firms. The number of small cap stocks at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, NSE, with outsized price gains has gone up this year as speculative trolling takes hold in the market. Speculative trading, rather, takes hold in the markets. So that's as far as business is concerned. Usually on Friday, watu washughuliki na biashara sana. No wonder they didn't even give us a physical copy of this paper. Lakini sawa tu.
Mwananchi ulimwengu wa shangaa.
Taifa Leo.
Okay, Taifa Leo. What did I say?
Ushaenda Tanzania, Mwananchi.
Rais Trump wa Amerika aonekana kupindua katiba ya nchi akijilimbikizia mamlaka. Kule chini tunaona mageuzi tangu apishwe na kutoa madaraka. Mnamo Januari 20, Rais wa Amerika Donald Trump ametetemesha ulimwengu, sera zake zikisababisha kilio na kuvutia ghadhabu za nchi kadhaa. Habari hiyo katika ukurasa wa 2, na hapa kando tunaona hatua kandamizi za Trump. Moja, Amerika kufurusha raia wa Gaza na kujenga eneo la burudani la kisasa. Rais Trump ameondoa Amerika kutoka shirika la afya duniani WHO. Trump amefutilia mbali ufadhili kwa shirika la kutoa misaada ya kibinadamu, that is USAID. Wengi wamepoteza kazi kutokana na hili, sana sana Kenya. Amesitisha mchango wa kikosi cha kudumisha amani Haiti. Atangaza mpango wa USA kujiondoa kwenye UNHCR. Amewarejesha wahamiaji makwao hasa Mexico, Colombia kwa njia ya kudhalilisha. Ametoza ushuru wa juu bidhaa zinazoingizwa Amerika kutoka nchi wa shirika za Canada na Mexico. Kutishia Afrika Kusini kuwa ataondoa ufadhili kutokana na sera za kibaguzi za ardhi. Vilevile alisitisha ruzuku kwa raia wa Amerika wasiofanya kazi wastaafu. Na Trump ametishia kunyakua Canada, Greenland na Guba la Mexico. Mambo hapo.
He's only been in power for how long? It's been about 17 days. 17 days.
Kule kando, korti yazima kanja kuhusu maandamano. Jaji asema hatua ya Inspector Generali ni kikwazo kwa haki msingi za binadamu.
Ati alisema ati he has outlawed demonstrations. Mbazi.
Yeah.
It is not up to you. Hiyo unajitwika mamlaka ambayo hauna.
Yeah. Wataalamu wakosoa amri ya rais, wametaja tangazo la Rais Ruto kuwa la kisiasa linalolenga uchaguzi mkuu. Hiyo ni agizo ipi ama ni ile ya IDs
ya vitambulisho?
Huko ni Garissa, eneo la North Eastern, ambapo amekuwa huko wiki hii for the past 3 days. M23 yatua mji mwingine DR Congo. Waasi hao watua mji mwingine unaofahamika kuwa na utajiri wa madini, the DRC war.
Kumbuka walisema waasi wa M23 wanatembea polepole hadi Kinshasa. Safari tu ni kwanza imeanza.
But they had called for a ceasefire. Tunaona bado wamesema hatuachi. Kule juu UDA kupata ushauri kwa Museveni. Chama chapeleka maafisa wakuu 19 Kampala kushauriana na NRM ya Museveni.
Masuala ya spoti
watatucheka ama hiyo tuache.
Ni sawa tu. Arsenal FC sasa yaga Carabao Cup. Kocha Akiri Masogora wake walikosa meno ya kung'ata Newcastle, lakini unajua anasema Carabao ni kama ni kikombe cha plastiki. Wengine wanasema sio, mimi nimesema.
Ni kweli.
Ungepata lakini sawa.
Taifa Leo hiyo.
All right, on the Star, the big headline there, Shabaab demand 7 million shilling ransom for kidnapped chiefs. And you would imagine that if this piece of news is there today, it should have been on the front pages of the papers that we see. This is the only paper I see with this story. Elders from Mandera and Nairobi have held meetings to initiate fundraising for the 5 abducted on Monday. President William Ruto has just finished his tour of that area. For him, this is loose change. He can actually pay the ransom. But hey, do we have a policy of negotiating with terrorists? That's the issue. Uhuru blames expulsion of troops for DRC crisis. That's on what's happening in the DR Congo. And remember that President Uhuru Kenyatta is the one leading the Nairobi process towards resolving that crisis. He spoke yesterday, he issued a statement yesterday, ahead of that meeting happening tomorrow in Dar es Salaam, the joint summit between EAC and SADC. But Uhuru Kenyatta anasema yeye anaelewa shida iko wapi. Political goodwill hakuna. Ile jeshi ya EAC ilikuwa imewekwa huko akaambiwa tukeni. Hapo ndio shida iko. Other quick highlights on the front page of the Star. Major twist as Uhuru's party, that's the Jubilee Party, backs Matiang'i. The country's political landscape is headed for a major twist after Jubilee Party endorsed former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, its 2027 presidential flag bearer. Elsewhere, audit red flags. 6 billion shillings spend on Adani-type deals. Lakini wameka kadogo hapa, stories on page 6. Some 6 billion shillings that the government borrowed to manage public-private partnership projects better may have gone down the drain. A new audit has cast doubt on whether taxpayers got value for money in the billions spent to facilitate Adani-type deals that never materialized. Remember, we still don't have that deal. We cancelled it, but we spent money on it. Being a Friday, this Star comes with a siasa pullout. Some of the stories inside: Raila AU win or loss will impact Kenyan politics. That's definitely a truth. And Rigathi versus Kindiki and the fresh battle for Mount Kenya. That is in the siasa pullout on the inside pages of the Star. Independent, fresh and different. That's the Star this Friday.
People Daily, kule juu, DP Kindiki, the Ruto whisperer. And they say, I think this is a special coverage for this newspaper, but fighting perceptions around lack of association with truth. President deploys his DP to explain government and reclaim confidence.
I love that headline. Fighting perceptions around lack of association with truth.
Hapa chini wanasema Kindiki has positioned himself as the face of a new, friendlier and pro-people government. The DP has so far met 250 MPs and about 40 senators in over 50 current meetings. In the meetings, leaders are always well briefed by Kindiki to outline government policy. And in January, President Ruto admitted that key development programs had stalled due to economic challenges, but promised this year was going to witness their implementation. And Kindiki marks 100 years since being sworn in as deputy president. Tomorrow.
100 days.
100 days.
Yeah.
Ni weekend.
Ni weekend imefika.
All right. Hapa juu tunaona Uhuru's solution for DRC crisis. Hiyo kusema 100 years imenitoa out of character kidogo. But let's get that. And Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, of course, he issued a statement through his spokesperson, and that is Kanzidena. Anasema anajua shida ni nini na anaweza kutatua, ila the political landscape is quite unstable. All right, kumbuka there is a meeting in Tanzania starting today na kesho. Yeah.
A joint SADC and EAC meeting. Barchok seized over 1.4 billion shilling corruption claim. This is a Bomet governor who was arrested yesterday by DCI officers. He was questioned and later released, but that action was in connection with this alleged loss of 1.4 billion shillings from the county's coffers. It's an interesting story there.
Right.
On the People Daily.
This one, education strike. Teachers now demand release of insurance cash. And we did a highlight of this yesterday, Fred. Kukuwe na a little bit of hope for these teachers. But the Ministry of Education faces more financial pressure, with the teachers demanding National Treasury releases the 11 billion shillings for a medical insurance scheme. The demand from the KUPPET adds to the growing list of claims that the Treasury has not satisfied. The union also complained that the Treasury had failed to remit at least 50% of capitation for free-day secondary education.
All right.
Right, and that is the People Daily.
Let's move on to the Daily Nation. We do have a physical copy here. Secret keepers of Ruto, Kenyatta and Moi empires. And this paper decides to go in a totally different tangent. They say revealed, they are reclusive and their job descriptions require them to remain discreet in both their professional and personal lives, lest they attract unwarranted attention to their employers' affairs. And yet they hold the keys to investments, vehicles with assets and cash worth billions for some of East Africa's wealthiest and most politically influential families, along with business as well as domestic secret that keep the multi-billion shilling empires raving. Meet the trusted confidence of Kenya's foremost political families. The story is on page 10. On the front page, they put pictures of representatives of Kenya's top families. There's Uhuru Kenyatta there, of course, from the famous Kenyatta family, Gideon Moi from the Moi family, Raila Odinga from the Odinga family, and now President William Ruto, who's joining the list of dynasties officially. You remember that story about the data that had been leaked?
Yeah.
So anasema, this story is not about these people. It's about the people under them, the people who work for them, to maintain and protect the property. The story is on page 10. Utajiangalilia hiyo story. Anasema, not many, even in their fields of expertise, can pick them out from a crowd. Unaweza kutana naye na utajua ni nani. But the Daily Nation on page 10, tufungue tu tuangalie ni watu kama nani hivi.
You see, Kenyatta's John Stuart, Armitage. Jacob Ogechi Ombongi, Jacqueline Mumbi Hinga, au ni Kenyatta's.
For Moise is Joshua Yator Keretz, Mukesh Jamnadas Kohil, Zambuni Shaun Alun, Millicent Chepkirui Ngetich. You've never heard of these people. For the Odingas, Israel Otieno Wasonga Agina, Gladys Jeruto Biama, Solomon Okea Awino, and John Tolo Otega. For Ruto, Tela Alusala, Lina Kantaria, Charles Victor Orodi. You've never heard of these people. Yeah, they're the guys who actually hold the secrets of Ruto, Uhuru, Moi, and Raila empires. That's a special story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Makes for a good read on a Friday. This paper also gives some prominence to the story of transition, the passing on of His Highness the Aga Khan, whose funeral service will be held tomorrow. 16 billion shilling looted through ghost workers in counties. This is through an audit, and that story is on page 14. And the court outlaws police of chief's ban on protests. So Gen Z mnakubaliwa kuprotest, koti imesema. Wachaneni na IG. Lakini je, muna nguvu. On the back page of the Daily Nation, senators reject proposed revenue sharing formula. That's the Daily Nation this Friday.
The Standard, you can teach me. And that is President William Ruto quoted there. Learned opinion, being a scientist with a PhD to boot, President William Ruto has told of critics of the livestock vaccine program that on the matter he knows more than they do, so they should shut up.
Ambao hawajasoma.
Hamjasoma.
Yeah.
Mimi niko hadi na PhD. Taniambia nini? That is what he said yesterday. All right. And you know the Standard pia wame highlight up a man of letters. Doctor of Philosophy in Plant Ecology, University of Nairobi. Master of Science in Plant Ecology, University of Nairobi in 2011. And Bachelor of Science in Botany and Zoology, University of Nairobi. And you know, the now CS of Agriculture, CS Magoha, when he was being grilled, he said, see, must, you don't have to vaccinate your livestock if you don't want. Hapa
CS
president,
Kagwe.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
President anasema, msitufunze kazi.
Yeah. Tutakuja tudunge hiyo ng'ombe yenu sindano uspende.
Yes, we have to keep the market strong. Huku chini tunaona lack of political will to blame for DRC war, says Uhuru. And on Goma crisis, retired president says resolving the Eastern DRC crisis hinges on coordinated efforts between Congo and Rwanda, adding that Nairobi and Rwanda peace processes offer the best path to stability. That story is on page 9 of the Standard. Uhuru Kenyatta said the recent resurgence of hostilities in Eastern Congo highlights the urgent need for renewed political will, regional cooperation, and sustained support for peace. Pale juu, okay, hapo chini, tubakie hapo. Why finding Odhiambo is a tall order. And this is the guy that went missing 17 days ago, allegedly in the hands of the KWS, where KWS say they caught someone indeed, but alitoroka. Sasa jana court ilisema there is no evidence, hakuna evidence ya kutosha.
Ya kusema ni KWS.
Sasa the family is still in agony. The court has disappointed them. Trump continues with his shocking outburst. That story is on page 11 of this newspaper. And pale juu mention of Barchok and the soup of a missing county funds is the first Kenya Kwanza governor to be arrested over fraud claims. Kenya eyes new IMF program. Somalia fast host woman turns head. And fresh tears as Arsenal crash out of Carabao. That's the Standard.
All right. Now we're done with the papers. Let's take a look at the cartoons today. We start off with a cartoon on the Star. And it has some people on a running truck. One who's already set for the race, and he says, it's my way or the highway this time. That's, it looks like the Wiper leader, the caricature of the Wiper party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka. Meanwhile, we are seeing someone else already on the roof of his vehicle. Lakini aliambia watu wasianze campaign. Lakini ashaanza. The rest of the guys look perplexed here. And these are just some of the potential presidential candidates come 2027. We have even Morara Kebaso. He has made it. Kama umechoro kwa cartoon, you've made it. Morara Kebaso, congratulations. Okiya Omtata there, CS Matiang'i there, Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, and Rigiji. So these are just some of, this is how the field looks like now. Lakini mmoja anasema, me, I'm ready to take off. That's a cartoon on the Star. Daily Nation.
Daily Nation. If we vaccinate them, tunaona pale caricature of President William Ruto ameshikia pale buckets taxes. Hapa chini anasema we could tax them more.
So your story ndio ya vaccination ya ng'ombe, lakini hapa anasema there's still room to tax Kenyans.
Yeah.
A bit more. Remember the budget making process inaendelea, and the budget policy statement will be tabled before parliament next week. Hapo ndio watu wataona ukweli.
Na ng'ombe iko emaciated.
Lakini sasa wanasema wakivaccinate itanaona kidogo ndio waweze ku.
Yeah.
On the People Daily, yes.
She needs your help. Tunaona mama pale ameshikwa pale na corrupt individuals. That is this caricaturist amesema. And pale mbele tunaona they're presenting aid. Tusaidie jamani, tunaomba.
Mbehu for Trump.
Yeah.
So it looks like, yes, this lady, her hands are tied at the back. So she's not even the one begging. It's this corrupt individuals who are using her to beg for aid. So the same debate. People are saying, yes, even the USAID, pesa ndio hukuja, lakini inapotea. It does not get to benefit the real people. So there's really no pain among very many Kenyans about the loss of the USAID. That's a People Daily. And finally, on the Standard, something similar, the tap has run dry from the US. Wamefunga hiyo tap. Hakuna kitu. hapo anajiuliza kutaendaje. That's a cartoon on the Star. This is part of the biggest discussions we're having today. What happens to Kenya and other African countries with the freezing of aid from America? So yes, after the break, the youth perspective, we'll be looking at these headlines. What do young Kenyans think about Trump's move to cut aid to African countries? It's not just Kenya, as well as the budget making process. Remember, kulikuwa na tumbo joto sana last year around the budget making issue. We'll be taking a look at trying to see and gauge kama mambo improve this year. That after the break.
DJ Granite will be with us as well on Feel Good Friday from 8 a.m. all the way to 10 a.m. Stay tuned. Our sister station, Radio 47, will also be launching the new state-of-the-art studio. So we'll be bringing you that as well. But interact with us on our social media platforms at TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube. We are on X, TV47 News KE. My handle is at Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle on X is at Freddy Ndimuli.
Stay with us.
TV47 is now more accessible on DStv. TV47, the home of untold stories, is bringing you even closer to the content you love. Starting February 12th, 2025, we are moving from Channel 268 to our new home on Channel 274 under the English Local Channels category. Enjoy easier access, top quality content, and the same great TV47 experience. Stay tuned and catch TV47 on DStv Channel 274.
Mwaka huu Radio 47 inakuja kivingine vingine na bado.
Niaje watu wangu wa Kabete National Polytechnic, this coming Saturday, get ready to party.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because your business deserves the best.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Are you ready to elevate your business game?
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
Kama wewe ni mfanyabiashara, huwezi kaa bure, unajipanga taratibu vile inavyofaa.
Join us each week as we dive into the stories of the world's most driven entrepreneurs.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
The Grind, where business meets brilliance. Tune in every Monday at 7:30 p.m. because you
Welcome back. Indeed, you're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Today being a Friday, of course, you know how we do it. It is the youth perspective. Taking a look at some of the big discussions and headlines from across the week, not just today. Looking at the headlines today, nothing much really to talk about, but it has been a very busy week. One, President William Ruto has just concluded his 4-day tour of the northeastern region, where, among other things, he revoked the process of vetting for IDs, for fresh IDs in that area. Something that many people consider quite controversial. We'll be looking at that with my panelists here. Something else we'll be looking at this morning is a budget-making process. Given the kind of activity we saw, the kind of upheaval, especially from the younger generation last year about the budget-making process, that process is already underway. We expect the budget policy statement to be before the National Assembly next week, once they resume from recess. Have things changed? Should we expect more upheaval this year from the younger generation? Also, what's happening with foreign aid, especially aid coming our way from the US? A lot of views, skepticism about whether or not this aid is actually beneficial to Kenyans, and we will start with that. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, beginning from my immediate right here. Miriam Katheu, who's an auditor. Miriam, karibu sana. Next to Miriam, we have Nick Mwangi, Secretary General, Kenya Hardy Party.
Good to be here, Fred.
Yes.
Good morning.
At the back there, we have Rejoice Mutheu Mwambia, who's a social scientist. Karibu sana, Rejoice.
Asante sana.
Yes. Also joining us today is Fred Mukua, ESC Youth MP. Karibu sana, Fred.
Thank you.
So let's start off with what's happening in the US. And two cartoons today are focused on that, the cartoon on the People Daily and the cartoon on the Standard. They seem to show or to portray what's happening with Trump. 17 days into office, he has already made radical shifts in American policy, especially in how it relates to other countries in as far as aid is concerned. This definitely will affect us in a way or so. I'm sure you know someone, one or two people who work for the USAID, probably in Kenya, or the UNHCR, or NGOs that benefit directly from them, plus programs that have been directly funded by the USAID, which will be directly affected. But if you go online on social media, not many people are feeling it. They're saying, actually, probably it is high time this happened. Miriam, let's start with you. Do you agree with them that probably this is a blessing in disguise?
To some extent, probably, but we have to be very cognizant of the fact that, there are many people that were getting support from these facilities. That way, the people who are actually pushing the agenda will suffer. However, for how long will we rely on aid? If you're too used to getting aid, you might never be self-sustainable. So maybe, for sure, it's a shocker because these third world countries didn't have time to prepare themselves for that. But again, how they cope with it, I think that is what will define what happens next. It's also a good thing. It will push people to be self-reliant.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you've referred to us as third world countries, meaning that we still have some growing up to do. We need some help. If you look at a lot of the funding that comes, especially towards the sector of health, goes towards HIV treatment, basic immunization for children, medicine, and such like things. Once this aid is cut off immediately, so abruptly, definitely there will be an impact locally, Nick. Don't you think that probably, yes, it may be a blessing in disguise, but we are still not ready for such?
In my view, Fred, I think Trump is a perfect description of Nikiweka Biblia chini. Because 17 days into office already, he's implementing some of the policies and promises he made to Americans through the Republican office or party. And on the issue of you said, it's a blend of emotions, because on the other hand, we see those who are living just slightly below the poverty line, heavily rely on the day-to-day running of that agency. On the other side, Trump's argument, administration's argument is it's been over 60 years, and we don't see where the money is going into. So for crying out loud, he's saying, I just want to do an audit. Can I see where the money is going? Each and every year we spend billions and billions of money trying to help people in Africa, but we cannot see where it's going. We got independence, for example, in our country, 1963, right? We are in 2025, Fred. If this fund was supposed to elevate us from the third world country, at least if much could have not been done, we could have stayed and moved up the ladder to maybe a second world country. But to me, I think in all jurisdiction, Trump is very right, because one, we as Kenyans don't pay taxes in US. It's Americans' money that we use here. Number two, we don't provide substantive audit reports on how this money we are using it as a country. And then number three, the common mwananchi, be as it may, Fred, is not moving at any capacity in terms of social capital or also economic capital. And these are the things that the Republicans Party and the Trump administration is trying to say. Yeah.
Rejoice, it would appear that, yes, 63 years later after independence, even with all this aid, that we don't seem to get to a point where we are self-sustaining. That, yes, we're still hopeful that next year there'll be more billions coming from the USAID and other donors to fund basic key sectors like education and health in Kenya. Do you think that probably, yes, this is the right time for Kenyans and Africans to learn how to handle their own business?
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to sympathize with the Kenyans that have lost their jobs across the different sectors. But again, you also have to look at the blessings in disguise that this has brought. The problem is not the halting of the USAID. The problem, that is just a symptom. The problem is actually the corruption that we have in Kenya, the poor governance that we have in Kenya. And so it is high time that we as Kenyans and the Kenyan youths, we look at these problems from the source and deal with them. Let us deal with the bad leadership that we have in this government, in our country. Let us deal with the corruption, and I think we will move forward as a nation well.
Yet the key sectors, education and education, even despite it being the biggest spend in our budget, about 650 billion shillings, we're still reliant on donor funding to fund most of our education programs. And health, those are key sectors. Yet African countries, and this is not just unique to Kenya, African countries have never gotten to the recommended budget level, for example, for health, about 15% of the budget. Do you think it's possible that, because like, for example, our budget making process is already underway, do you think it's possible for African governments to adjust that fast to this abrupt ending of donor funding?
Thank you, my namesake Fred, for giving me this a chance. So, to my point of view is after 60 years of independence, and you still find Africa is still depending on the donor funds. And we are blessed with a number of resources, mineral that can, if we come together as Africa, explore the resources that we have in Africa, we could be so much far than any other developed country. And this donor funding they are given by the Western, it is used to manipulate And also you find sometimes there's some interest they push behind this donor funding. So it is high time now Africa to sit down, re-strategize and do its things on its own. And I think most of the world leaders should follow the Trump's way, so that you see, this money was meant for the US citizen who pay the taxes in their nini. But when it's come to Africa, it's only, it is meant to help the poor people, but to find a very small percentage is the one that is benefit the poor, and the rest goes to the pocket of the billionaire in Kenya. So it is a high time African countries will sit down and start practicing to be self-reliant.
Yet, Miriam, even with the withdrawal of the US from funding some programs in Africa, that will just be room for another probably European country or China to take over that space. Is it possible for us to avoid just going back to the same thing? Because money is out there. Europeans will come and find us, Russia probably, or the Chinese. We may be talking about America and USAID, but they're not the only people who are donors in Africa.
And I think that's where our problem is, because Fred, you'd agree with me, if you're running a company that is always on loan financing or just always supported by like donations, you're not really running a sustainable organization. If this country was being run like a profit-making entity, would have closed down a long time ago. Because let's assume like the USAID thing is like seed funding. For how long will people keep funding your ideas? You understand? For sure, we will be waiting for another country to come get us, because that's the weird crop of politicians we're having right now. They can't sit, re-strategize, adjust budgets, cut unnecessary expenses so that we move towards sustainability. I think it's possible to get to sustainability. But if we keep relying on usaidizi, we'll never really move on from it. And this is also the culture that you see with even during political rallies. Yeah, the poor people, you come, you align to their needs at that particular time. We are going to sort this, we are going to sort this. They're blinded from seeing the future and like even asking what more the politicians can do. And they settle for getting very little. So I don't think as a country we should really rely on aid. But definitely, unless, a miracle happens, because miracles do happen to our current political class, and they change how they view things, probably.
And we'll come to discuss the budget issue. But if we look on the flip side, even the US and these other donors, they usually have an intention. They're not just doing this out of the goodwill just to help. There have been talk about even the USAID being a front for the CIA and pushing other agenda, not just in Kenya, but across countries where they feel they have an interest in. Do you think that this shift in American foreign policy could portend good things for Kenya, that probably will not be under that much control of the Americans?
I think, Fred, in my view, politically, Trump is trying to make the American stamp, because the American has been the prefect of the world for a long time. And the previous administration, Biden administration, we were talking about the Russia and the Russia so often, because they were bullying a certain small nation because of the NATO contract or the NATO borders. So for Trump, I see him as a way of going back in 1884, whereby partitioning of Africa was still a conversation in the Europe and in the Europe countries. But I don't see this issue taking precedent for a long time, Fred, because to me, I see it as a way of calling the presidents to the table to now have a discussion, to talk about now what do US stand to benefit in your country.
So you look at it like it's the US's way of gaining more control on African countries.
Of course, Fred.
By holding back aid, America, or rather African nations, will be forced to go with a bigger begging bowl to America.
That's it, Fred, because if US does not do this, then what is relevant in the world? For Trump, it's about, as he said, making America great again. And to him, this is a fast way of doing it. And there's so many ways that he plans to have America be the conversation of the world, because it's not just in Kenya or in Africa. We have seen in Canada, the Prime Minister came out and said these new tax laws are not feasible in our country. So to him, it's about making a statement, Fred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rejoice, do you agree that this is probably the beginning of a new world order? That probably the Americans have realized that China was taking over, India and Russia through the BRICS movement was actually gaining traction in Africa, and they realized that, well, we might have been losing out, and this is a better way of getting back attention from African countries by denying us aid.
Okay, first of all, from a social scientist view, and as an ambitious leader in this nation, I want to say, first of all, this should not be about who takes control or who takes what. It should be about the people of Kenya, for Trump, the people of America. It should be about humanity, you know. And also going into that, this is an interesting story in the Bible, that whoever has more will be added to him. And whoever has less, the less will be taken and given to the one that has more. So as Kenyans, can you think along that line?
You're saying what we have will be taken and given to America. Well, it could be true.
Yes, as Kenyans, can this be an eye-opener that, you know, the less that we have, actually we don't have less. It is just a perception they create. In Kenya, we have more. We have minerals, we have the agricultural products that we produce. Let us open our eyes and see beyond and accept the fact that we have more.
But with the kind of political leadership we have so far in Africa, do you think that will be the reaction from our political leaders that, okay, fine, this is an opportunity to build Kenya, build Tanzania, build DRC, use your own resources, no dependency on foreign aid, unlike what we see in Burkina Faso and other countries on that side? Or will our leaders now quickly turn into Mbeho, please, America, please listen to us, we are finished without your aid? Fred?
As you see for example, in Kenya, we used funds from China to build the railway. But the same people like, you see, Magufuli did it using their own resources. And if you see in Africa, most of this fund, the most affected people are the politicians, because a large chunk of the money goes to do private stuffs. So this move by US is to teach the African government and African people to be self-reliant, to depend on them. And it should be a wake-up call for all the African countries, because it might become a trend for other donors to do the same thing. And so it is an early cushion to the African people and the African leadership to sit down. The same thing the president of the former, the late Gaddafi was pushing for one Soviet Union of Africa. So this is the high time for the global South to sit down and mobilize their own resources. They have a lot of resources, a lot of black people who can do innovation and who have skills, but we can't be accepting, like for the other time you see the US had some interest where the president was there, and you saw within a short period LGBTQ was legalized, and as you see as Trump has come in, most of the things that he promised our current president will be turned down, because he's against the policies that the previous government was pushing. And that is a nice move. We can't be puppet of the Nini, and we're still being colonized even 60 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would need generational change in leadership, probably, because what we're seeing with the leader in Burkina Faso is that he's a fairly young gentleman as compared to the average age of most African leaders. Do you think that that's a solution, that a younger leader would be able to move his or her country towards self-reliance and do away with donor reliance?
Well, that could be a solution. It's one of the solutions. But like,
is there a guarantee that the younger the better? That's the issue, because this is the youth perspective.
It's not a guarantee, but like definitely from what we've seen at Burkina Faso, we could easily say, you know, based on that case study, we can try that over here. But it needs someone with a different perspective. I will go back to referencing to big companies. When they're sliding down, most times they change the top management, people who are controlling the big decisions, how money is being spent. And most times they get back to their feet. I feel like in our country, we've had the same faces for a long time. Yeah, it's about time for change. That would definitely change, but also with people with a different mindset. It wouldn't make sense if you vote in someone who also believes in over-relying on aid. That would not bring the change we want. So change in political class for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And allow me to welcome to this conversation Kakai Naipamei, Kenya Kwanza youth leader. Naipamei, karibu sana. We're just discussing what's happening with the US with the radical moves by Donald Trump withdrawing aid from USAID, basically shutting down USAID, as well as even just withdrawing the US from WHO and how it impacts on us as African countries, because what we face is the same thing that our neighbors face in Tanzania, Uganda, and across the continent. And we're just wondering, are we in a position where we can actually be self-reliant, or is it an ideal that is still a bit too far from us? Are we being realistic in saying this is a time that you can be self-reliant without international aid?
Thank you for having me. I think Trump move is two ways. Number one is to push African leaders to get out of the comfort zone of depending on aid for important development like health is important. Why shouldn't a country prioritize it? On the other end is because the G20 shaked US as the most powerful country in the world, and they want to take control back. So the question will be, what will African leaders do that will benefit the African people, but not only the interests of the America leadership and governance? So for me, I am looking at a neutral ground whereby our leaders will get out of that comfort zone and start, putting more money on important sectors, health, education. And then on the side of negotiation, because there will be a negotiation, that they are not going to sell our resources.
There will be a negotiation?
Yeah, there will be. Trump is looking, of course, he has withdrawn it without giving them notice or something. These are important sectors. The African Union Summit will be on 14 and 15 in Addis Ababa. They are going to say we will need a sitting with the US.
So African leaders will be forced to?
Yes, they will be forced to. So in that negotiation, we are hoping that when they negotiate, they are going to say, this is what we negotiate. Climate change was contributed highly by them, not us. So that is our ground of negotiation. Like, we are helping you solve climate change. You help us get whatever we are not ready to. But then I am also hoping that that summit will push our leaders, because Africa has a lot of resources. According to World Bank research, Africa will be the power leader in the next 50 years. Why wait for 50? Why can't you make it now? Because if we are going to control, to feed the world, we are going to provide energy to the world. Why can't we provide the same to our citizens now?
It sounds nice when we say it.
Yes, but then
realistically, do we think that in the short term,
realistically, every country should have an immediate, because we also don't know the outcome of what they decide on 15, and then what will Trump say? Trump is Trump, right? Yeah. So he might say, go to hell. And he might say, okay, I want this and this in Kenya, I want this and this in Uganda, I want this and this in Tanzania. Trump is Trump. And he can ask for the worst. So in Kenya, for example, you had CS Mbadi said, like, the financial bill for 2025-2026, the county government, they will cut several billions so that they put it in health and stuff. So I think every country is also trying to be prepared for the worst.
And that's where I want us to come to, because if at all we are adjusting and tightening our belts, it's through the budget making process.
Yes.
Next week, Nick, we expect, once the National Assembly resumes, that among the top priority is a tabling of the budget policy statement by Treasury. That process has been ongoing since September last year. It's only now about 3, 4, 5 months to the finalization of the budget making process, which we understand the kind of problems we've had with that budget making process, especially coming from last year. Now, as we prepare for that, the Treasury CS has already indicated that he has an ambitious plan of spending 4.3 trillion shillings, which is a record. We don't have that much money. KRA's collection is getting to 2-point-something trillion, maybe hopefully to 3 trillion, meaning we'll still have a shortfall of over 1 trillion shillings. Now, with this withdrawal of funding from key donors like the US, do we have enough time to adjust our budget? Is it the right way to be so ambitious on a budget at a time when you know you cannot even finance it?
In my opinion, I think we are, as a country, we're in between a hard place and a rock. Because, Fred, just as we're concluding the topic of the Trump issue, as of July 2024, our public debt was 10.4 trillion. So most of these countries have managed to control African countries because of debt, and they look onto the social issues that can make Africans shake. So I don't see John Mbadi being realistic again, to me, because at this moment I think he should go back and learn from what happened in June 25. Do we still need to engage the public? At what stage do the public need to talk about the policies? How is their payslip? Because if we were to go into the more taxation way, more Kenyans are not getting more pay. So it minimizes, as of today, 48% of the salary goes to tax. So maybe the Treasury should look if they are looking to gain power back in 2027, should look of more ways to bring comfort to the common man. But these are the issues that we are saying, or we've been saying as young people. At what point should we get involved? Is it only just the legislature and the executive making the decisions for us?
All right.
Yeah.
And you see the discussions around budget, Rejoice, last year, where members of the National Assembly simply did not want to listen to Kenyans. Yet Kenyans were taken through public participation, whatever they said, and that is what resulted in the uproar and upheaval that we saw culminating in the events of the June 25th last year. The same could happen this year. Yet we've seen the CS for Treasury coming out and saying now he is going to go around and hold public barazas. He held one at Jivanji Gardens this week, actually, and that he's going to do the same across the country to try and explain the government's plan. Do you think that's the way to go? Do you think that is enough to convince not just the older generation, especially the younger generation, the Gen Zs, that were not so happy with the budget-making process last year?
First of all, I would challenge the government to actually do an actual public participation. And when I mean actual public participation, I don't mean, just a few whole of Kenyans, the entire nation, the more than 50 million people that we have in Kenya. And again, as the great lady, the late Wangari Maathai would put it, bad governance is more destructive than lack of resources. If Mali cleared its debt just recently, why can't Kenya? What is Kenya lacking, For me, I would again put it to bad leadership, to bad governance. Let's deal with the source of our problems. Whatever we are seeing, it is just, the symptoms. Yeah.
Okay. And when we talk about public participation, it's simply a way of collecting views from Kenyans on what they don't want or what they want. if there's something that happened last year is that Kenyans came out and spoke in different ways, including demonstrations. They said what they want, Fred. We are only 4 months to the conclusion of this budget-making process. When the CS Treasury says now is when it's going out, yet he already has a budget policy statement ready. Now is when it's going out. Do you feel that he's being genuine, or is it just a public relations stunt to try and calm down the waters?
Fred, it is so ironic to say the issue of public participation in Kenya. As last year you saw, there was the same MPs. They were saying they won't change even the comma in the budget. So the MP are being controlled. The parliament is not independent in terms of implementing policies. They are serving the executive. So if you talk about public participation, I don't think if it's true, because through online, even through the email, the Kenyans are always on eye, and they're always checking on the budget, giving reviews about the budget. But even if you see even the other things like the university funding model, the other time I took part in the modeling of the same, what we recommended and what came out along, I wondered why they did the public or had that committee to review the same. So in terms of public participation in Kenya, it is not true.
Okay. Yet, Naipame, this administration cannot afford to make the same mistakes it made last year, especially with the budget-making process. Are you certain and are you confident that things are being done differently this time around?
Yeah, so just because it's economic matters, that's my expertise side. Every year, in the beginning of every year, the Monetary Policy Committee that deals with macro issues and others who deal with micro issues, they meet and they reflect on the expectations of what will happen across the year. So this time, what is different is that there's very goodwill from the CS for Treasury, and it's not just goodwill, he's doing it. We have 4 months before June, right? So you cannot go to Kenyans if you don't have the documents that says this year we're doing A, B, C, D. And by the way, in that document, there's no addition of tax. And he said this the other day when he was in NTV, that we have stretched too far. So there is no more taxation. But from what we have already stretched too far, how much can we put to the sectors that matter? That is education, that's health, that's agriculture. And then how can we then also ensure that Kenyans are running businesses not at a loss? Mm-hmm. And that is why the MPC, which is the Monetary Policy Committee, has confident that the inflation ratio will remain below 5%, and they have reduced CRB rate, and they have also reduced the bank rate for them from the percentage they have added the other year, 2023, to a percentage that will be comfortable with banks and also comfortable with MSME, that we are making money as we repay back our loans. So yes, I believe that things are going to be much better. Mm-hmm. And the only way that the CS had to go after their, I call these like our first nakala chafu ya kwanza. So you go now, talk to citizen, they're telling you, okay, in this sector, tuko sawa, hii sector, kuna shida, hii sector, hapana, hatutaki. And then now munakuja, you say, okay, this is what we are telling Kenyans, and Kenyans, this is what Kenyans are saying. Mm-hmm. They come now and draft nakala chafu ya pili. Yep. By the time now they go to parliament, they would have factored in most of them. But now there is a big issue that now they are focusing on more than just what they had proposed. Because when they're preparing it, there was no freezing of, mm-hmm. And now there is. So now they have to focus on, and the first step which he has done, which is not going to add anyone tax, is county government, they have been cut 7 billion. So that 7 billion could at least go to health as they figure out how they're going to get the rest of the money.
But Nick, do you think that this seeking of public views by the CS Treasury at this point, 4 months to the end of the budget-making process, when it's just a week before they present the budget policy statement to the National Assembly, because after that it will be up to legislators and the individual respective committees to try and break it down. Do you think that that speaks of genuineness from the CS's perspective, that I've really thought and I've really thought about how we'll factor in public participation? Surely that should have come earlier than this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fred. And the public has totally lost a lot of faith in the government of the day, because there are 290 constituencies in our country. And the CS just decided to do a Jivanji visit. And Jivanji is in the capital city of this country. We want him to go to Isiolo. We want him to go to Masabit. We want him to go to Lamu, Tana River, where people are actually feeling the impact of the tax, the impact of the harsh economic times of our country, because we don't want to see another repeat of stalemate in this country. What Kenyans are simply asking, if we are being taxed, then let our money simply do the most basic things: good education funding model, healthcare coverage, and roads. That is what the common mwananchi is saying, because we cannot invest more to what we don't have. Ideally, that's what Kenyans are saying. And the CS and the government of the day have a lot to prove to Kenyans, because they came in with a heavenly manifesto that they will deliver to Mama Mboga, vijana wa boda boda. Yet we are not seeing it today, Fred. Boda bodas are closing shop. Mama Mbogas are still not selling their vegetables. So that is what the common mwananchi wants to speak about, Fred. How can we make our lives more simple? How can we make our lives more affordable? How can we take our children to school?
Now, the political landscape has changed dramatically also over the past 6-7 months since the events of June, with the rejection of the finance bill then. At that time, the minority side, which the main party was ODM, sided with the youth and rejected the finance bill, although the other side had more votes. This time round, they're all on one side, meaning that houses of legislation will vote one way when it comes to that. Looking at the kind of result that the Gen Zs were seeking with the rejection of the finance bill, it is important to note that most of those provisions have been reintroduced through individual tax amendment bills, meaning that nothing was lost from the rejection of the finance bill. How certain are you as a Kenyan youth that your voice will be heard this time round?
Personally, I'm not certain that the voice will be heard. The voices should have been heard when they were coming up with the budget policy paper, even before it's tabled to the parliament. On the question that you asked about the full house now being on one side, I will go back to what I said sometime last week. I wish we had a crop of leaders that really, their decision making, their opinions, their views are not based on the political parties they are from and the political leaders. If we had sane leaders who'd be like, yes, I'm in ODM, however, I really do not agree to this, we'd see change, Fred. Yeah, but you see, we also have that fear that everyone now is on one side and they will speak one language. I really hope some type of redemption happens before that time gets in, and we have seen people who are saying, sawa sawa, our political interests are on one line. However, on these economic matters, tujite mkutano, let's agree that this will not work, this will work. And I want to tell you something, Fred, yeah? In most families, let's say you're having a cash crunch. Do you invest as a family, or you first seek to address the cash crunches? Yeah. If you have banks coming after your assets, you look to first finance that particular loan before you take up extra loans. Whatever I'm seeing in how affairs are run in our country is really, it's perplexing, because if it were their own entities they are running, yeah, and it gets to a point where there's not really money to invest, and we also are having too many loans, we would not be saying pick an extra housing levy from people so that we build houses. How about we first sort the mess that is in the education sector? How about we first sort the mess that is in the health sector before talking about big dreams, you know? Who will fund them? And then also on the issue of county governments getting a cut of the 7 billion, I don't think I quite agree to that move. I would also call it a sheep move, for lack of a better word. If this particular government of the day is honest and really cares about the country, what percentage do counties get from the budget yearly?
Minimum of 15%.
15. Where are they going to cut that 50? Cut those, what do we call them? Discrete expenditures on these big offices. Cut these, cut those unnecessary expenditures, drive them to the budget, stop going for the little that you give to the counties.
All right.
Yeah.
Rejoice, I'm more concerned now about this generational understanding of the budget making process. The older generation and the budget making process in Kenya has been a very legislative, probably treasury, very professional, expert-centered process. But over the last 2 years, we've seen a different kind of understanding of the budget-making process from the general public. Issues like the finance bill, the budget policy statement, and all these discussions, it's only until 2 years ago that people started questioning them. Last year, we saw it was a younger generation in particular that was questioning this, culminating in the protests, even in the breach of parliamentary precincts. The youth still do not have their concerns addressed. How different will this budget-making process be this year, given the level of understanding that the Kenyan youth have of the process?
Okay. First of all, I am certain that it's not going to be business as usual, because Kenyans are tired, tumechoka. And I expect, just like the previous one, Kenyans are going to question this. And it's so unfortunate that, as you said, the public participation that is being done is not actually public participation. It is just a very, a partial participation of some selected few. Because if we were talking of public participation, I said it should be to the 57 million Kenyans that we have in this nation. And about the level of knowledge about, the budget-making process to Kenyans, I would wish to congratulate Gen Zs first, me being one of them. We saw that they translated this budget to even vernacular languages, to Kikamba, to Kimeru, to Kikuyu, so that even the people at the grassroots, our shoshozuko, they would actually understand. And I'm actually calling out to my fellow Gen Zs, to the fellow youth and everyone in Kenya. Let us encourage those Kenyans that are still not, that do not still have their eyes open. As they table this budget at Parliament, let us translate it to everyone, including to our Gukasuko Shago, so that they understand, because it is high time we take charge of our nation as Kenyans. If we don't take charge of our nation, then the future generations will not forgive us, So I'm calling upon Kenyans. Ikikuwa tabled kwa Parliament, let's open our eyes, let's read between the lines and know what is there for us, and know whether our voice is actually represented. If it is not represented, it is our constitutional right to reject.
Okay.
So, but the reject movement will still be on.
Yet we know that politicians, Fred, have already regrouped. Following the events of June 25 last year, there's a broad-based government now. No Gen Z was included in that discussion. They moved on. They seem to have gotten the feeling that they've resolved the issues that were being raised by the younger generation last year. Do you see a risk that this budget-making process could, ile inaitwa kutonesha kidonda, pouring salt on a wound that is still open, Fred?
Let me take you back to when the plan itself was drafted by different people who came together, discuss ideas, and they get those feedback from people, and the president was moving around. So it was drafted from positive feedback they got from the people. And now you see they have brought in a different team to the plan who was against the plan. So to my point of view, it is someone who is running the docket and is the same person who was on the other side opposing the same policies that he's implementing. So it is a bit ironic, and it might bring other negative implications if it's the same thing still happen. And you see in what happened in 20 June, the country was moving towards what we have in Goma currently. But Baba did something good. He saved the government from hiyo kupotea. So now I don't know what will happen again because most of them are in the broad government. And Baba is focusing in EAU seats. He's no longer interested with the policies he used to push when he was in the opposition part about the common people. And now it seems like the political elite are regrouping again to protect but the issues affecting the youth, such as unemployment, the education, it still sees the same issues that will repeat over and over again. So in the planning table, in terms of policy making as youth, we feel left out, and the political elite are regrouping to push their own interests, which youth are not even taking part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Naipame, I'm sure you might have a different take on that when it comes to the youth's involvement. And because generally, even some of the senior government officials say in passing that, yes, the youth had genuine concerns last year. Then they go ahead and claim that, of course, the demonstrations were taken over by different gangs. But they seem to agree that the youth had genuine concerns. But are they addressing those genuine concerns in this new budget-making process?
Yeah, of course, youth have genuine concern, but other youth are in business. Yeah, let's not talk about that. Others are in business and others have genuine concern. So I'm going to address the genuine concern youth. Genuine concern being there is high rate of unemployment, which is true, simply because the population of Kenya has increased. From 1963, we were barely 4 million, and now we are 55 million. That means access to education, so many people are going to school, they're graduating every day. But the question will be, is the government creating opportunities that will observe the rate at which students are graduating? That has always been the question, and it is not from now, because I believe from 2000 probably, when the education system was made compulsory and free, they would have found a solution also of observing it. But then I guess we were just focusing on educating people without finding how they get jobs. But then now we are at a point of stretch where we have too many graduates. Every year we are graduating over 60,000 people from university, colleges, and all those other institutions. So the government is pushing for industrialization, which is now the option. The government cannot stretch beyond, because it's like telling the government, come up with new institution to employ people. So the best way is to, subsidize industrialization, push for manufacturing, and then observe people in that industry. It's not going to be a walk on the path, but for your information, the motor vehicle assembly says in Naivasha is almost completed, and once finished, the one that was launched last year, where there was auctioning for vehicle, and there will be another auctioning this year. It's almost complete, and then Dogokundu is almost complete. By April, some youth will be observed over 10,000. I can't say that is nothing, because at least 10,000 families...
Is it enough to avoid the upheaval that we saw from the younger generation last year?
Of course, it is something. And again, another thing
Are you confident that
I am
what we saw last year will not be seen this year?
Unless people are not reasonable, because people change, right? And then people also believe on, I raised my concern, there is something being done about it. Unless you're just there for the money, as I said, there are two kinds of youth. There are those who are genuinely raising concern, which are genuine, and they appreciate that something has been done. For example, if we are in a family of 20 kids and they're going to observe 4 or 3 of us, the remaining of us, we can't be roaring and saying, no, it's not enough. Because we were at 0. Now at least we have 4 sources of income. And then the other season when it comes, we get and stuff. So the biggest place that the government is pushing to get to observe youth is in agriculture sector and manufacturing sector. Because, you know, food security, as I said, World Bank report shows that Africa will feed the world. We cannot also sit in Kenya and say, let's wait for people from Tanzania to feed us. We have also to be part of food security and nutrition for our own self and also for the rest of the world.
Okay. So yes, the budget making process is underway. And next week we expect the budget policy statement to be tabled in Parliament. Meanwhile, the CS Treasury is engaging in different fora, let's call them barazas, to try and explain to Kenyans, and according to the dailies last week, it is just a way of ensuring that the Gen Zs are quietened, at least before the end of this budget-making process. Whether that will happen or not, we wait to see. All right, I want us to move on to another discussion. And this week, President William Ruto was in the northeastern region, no longer province, the region. And while speaking in Wajir and Mandera, he talked about his plan. Now it's no longer a plan. He has actually actualized it. He revoked the requirement for vetting of ID applicants in that region. This is a policy that has been there for over 4 decades. Yes, from President Jomo Kenyatta, President Daniel Moi, President Mwai Kibaki, President Uhuru Kenyatta. President William Ruto now comes in and says, we do not need that. It also comes at a time when the court ordered repeat census for the same region to establish the numbers after revoking the census of 2019 for the 4 regions of the northeastern region. A lot of people are reading mischief because senior government officials have already come out and already are talking about how big the numbers are in northeastern and how they're going to play out come 2027. Miriam, are you reading mischief in all this?
Definitely I am. Because why? Why would he say that there is no need for vetting? Did he give a convincing reason? If then there is no need for vetting in Northeastern, there should be no need for vetting in the entire country. You can't just you can't wake up and decide things that favor one region, you know, as the face of this country. If there is no need for vetting in Northeastern, there should be no need for vetting in the Eastern region, Western region, Central.
This is the extra vetting that's required for border counties.
Yeah.
Let's say borders south of the countries that border Tanzania, where there's an influx of people from either side of the border. They have a special vetting beyond the normal vetting that others within these counties of Kiambu go through.
Then, whatever is happening in Northeastern, they should copy and paste it in the other bordering regions. Yeah, there's a lot of mischief. I mean, why wouldn't he just focus on delivering on his mandate, whether the numbers play out or not? And we said this last time. He should work this thing of trying to do census so that they favor how they are going to manipulate numbers come elections. Surely.
Okay. But they'll also argue, Rejoice, that it is unfair for Kenyan youth to be required to explain how Kenyan they are. Yeah, in some areas while others in other counties are not required to do the same. If you come from probably some region in the eastern or central part of the country, you may not be required to provide extra proof of your nationality. While anyone probably in Migori or Namanga or Lokichogio, and also the one down south. Yes, they would be required. There is that justification as well. But probably it's the timing of this that could be the issue.
Yeah, first of all, the timing, I agree. It could be the issue based on the kind of governance that you're experiencing, you know, lies after lies, things not working out, you know, not listening to advice sometimes, not listening to people's voice. Yeah, the timing also. But again, with a genuine concern for our nation, security is it's paramount to this nation. In the past years, we've experienced, security threats like terrorism attacks. And honestly, if the concerns are genuine, that, we are concerned about the security of Kenya, and that's why we are doing the vetting, then it is okay. But again, beyond that, it is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So you're not for the extra vetting of, or are you not for the revocation of the vetting?
First of all, because we have a right to, to explanation as Kenyans, that's why we put those leaders there.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, can they explain to us, can they do enough explanation to Kenyans? If Kenyans are questioning, then the people in charge of that, I believe the Ministry of Interior, it means they're not doing their work, to explain to Kenyans why it is needed. Mm-hmm. And if Kenyans are not convinced, come back to Kenyans and explain to us, because we love our nation, of course. We would not want, any security threats, but then let them do enough work in explaining to Kenyans. Yeah.
Okay. The feeling is that that region, especially northeastern region, is still very, the border with Somalia is very porous. We have a headline here about the chiefs who were abducted a day before the president made his way to northeastern region, meaning that there's already a serious security threat from that region. For the president to go there at a time where security concerns are very high, yes, and to revoke the special vetting of those seeking IDs, that in itself communicates something. Does it raise a concern with you?
It raises a lot of questions about the genuinity of the enemy. To my suspicion, this is a new Tarakaniti that is being nurtured. And in terms of registration, even the census itself, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, they don't have the exact number of the people living around the place. So when they be doing voters registration, we might be told there are 800 registered voters. And because there is no that verification to prove there are actually the 800 people. So that what the president did was a political move and a political statement, and which any politician who is has a very tough ground or maneuvering in the ground has to look something that can entice the Kenyan. And that is what he did, so that he can at least have that smooth transitioning over and touring the eastern region. Yeah.
Right. Now, if I may educate us on the president's thinking, because I've seen you planning your words carefully. Kindly educate us on why we should not read mischief in some of these actions at this time.
First of all, it's a good thing because I am from a tribe that is in 2 countries. Probably we are also in another 3rd country, only that we are not called Maasai. But I think if you come from a community that is in 2 countries, you will understand that when you live in the border, it's hard for you sometimes even to get to do KCP or KCC, because in as much as they know your ancestral have always been there, they still ask you questions of like, let your parents produce their birth certificate. Okay, my old man was born when there were a colony in Kenya. Where did he have a birth certificate from? So for me, I want us to focus on the side that there is no more Kenyan than the other. We both know there are Maasais in Kenya and Tanzania. There are Somalians in Kenya and Somalia, right? But this move is not political, just as a point of correction. Number one is that this conversation, it's not political because I'm going to verify in my statement. Because for the longest, Northeastern region has had triple verification process, unlike us, because as I said, we have our people who comes from Namanga. They don't do triple verification, and I have experienced this firsthand. Me and my friend in the University of Nairobi, we were walking along Harituko Lane, and then a police officer comes, that was 2019, and tells my friend, can I take you to the station? And I was like, why? He's like, he looks like an Shabaab. Do you know how that is terrifying? You're a student, you come from Northeastern, you don't know what Al-Shabaab, actually he's a Catholic, he's not even an Islam. And we went to the station. Do you know how long we stayed? We missed 2 lectures. We stayed over 6 hours. They were questioning him and asking him petty questions just because he comes from Northeastern. He's tall and tiny, and he looks like one of the Al-Shabaab. So it was just justifiable for that police officer to hold him. And I told him if he's going to hold him, he has to hold me because he's my friend. And then he's like, where enda nyumbani? I'm like, no, he's Kenyan, I'm Kenyan. He's a student, I'm a student. There is no way you just profile people. So imagine if they are profiled here in Nairobi when they are studying. Imagine what they go through there. So this process is not that it is being removed at now, there is no vetting, no. The extra shells are the one removed. Another reason why this is removed is the high rates of corruption there. So because there have been 3 processes of vetting in Northeastern compared to other borders, which only have 2, it's only the one which is removed. Zikwe is similar. But now, beyond that, there has been a lot of corruption, especially there, that now the people who are there, they'll say, if you don't want us to do extra vetting to you, we go to the highest bidder. You have more money, we process your family, you get the ID. And that has actually been messing because those now Kenyans who are real Kenyans because they don't have money, they don't get IDs. And then those Somalis who want to be Kenyans because they have money, they get ID. Now this extra shell being removed will give them an equal opportunity that as long as I've provided, of course there has to be vetting, like in the border area for the purposes of security of our country and citizenry. So they will just do the same, what they do in Omanga, what they do in Busia, like the first phase of let's follow your ancestral, okay, you come from this family, you have one citizenship, you are Kenyan, fine. You want dual citizenship, why? Because half of my family is here, and then you follow the process of getting dual citizenship. There is nothing political. Before I end this conversation, this is personal to us pastoralists. For the longest time, we are being told our population don't grow. It's not only about Somalis, it's also about Maasai. It's about all minority communities in Kenya. Census has never been honest with us because tell me why we have 7 million Maasais in Tanzania and we are being told here in Kenya we're 1.2 million. And tell me...
It is possible that you
No, let me tell you why it's not possible. I come from a polygamous family. Mm-hmm. My uncles have over 40 kids, 1 person, 4 wives. My dad has over 20 kids, 2 wives. My brothers have married 2 wives. They have over 20 kids. Tell me why our population is not growing all those years. They keep on telling us we are 800, 1.2. No. I am up for, we want to be told the truth. And if they can't do that, we can do that by ourselves. We count ourselves. We count our votes. Because my family has over 800 votes as we sit down right now.
It's actually come out at the end. It's about the numbers. Yeah. That everyone wants to ensure that...
No, every community wants to understand that we have the numbers to be part of the decision makers instead of 2 communities. No, wait. Instead of 2 communities wanting to say we have more Kenyans because we have
don't you think
numbers.
that combining those 2 conversations together is where people are reading the mischief? That on one hand, you want free ID issuance in a certain region, and on the same breath,
we want IDs to be issued to every border community. That is why I said about our community, about Busia people, Busia Luyas and Luos, and Northeastern. But I said clearly, in Busia border and Tanzania border, they don't have 3 shells, they have 2. Okay. But in Northeastern, they usually have 3 and sometimes even 5.
Okay. Nick, you appear to be reading mischief. Explain to us.
I totally disagree with my colleague because she's totally diverting the conversation. A week before the president went to Northeastern, we saw the UDA Secretary General.
The mic, I think, is off.
We saw the UDS SG and the majority leader of the Senate, Aaron Cheriot, going to launch offices in Mandera. Mm-hmm. And few days later, we see the president talking about issuance of ID. And we are reading a lot of mischiefs. He's just from Western. He's now going to Northeastern. He's looking at his political numbers. The president cannot do anything without thinking about his own interest as a politician. He's been accusing other politicians about campaigning 9 out of 10 years while he was in office as a deputy president, he campaigned. Today we see him still on top of cars. And there are serious issues that have not been addressed. We saw just this week, Yusuf Ahmed, the MC of Delaware, appeared dead. He's not addressing such issues. A honorable, he appeared to be missing for quite a while. It was so saddening that I heard Bob Njagi said he was in a room next to him. Those are the issues that the people of Northeastern want to hear. Naipame is forgetting that there are still no schools in Northeastern. There are still no roads in Northeastern. There are still no hospital in Northeastern. So the whole agenda of the president being in Northeastern is about filling his bucket for 2027. It's totally a mischief. And the same promises that he's making to the people of Northeastern, the roads that he promised the people of Mount Kenya, we are still not going to see it in Northeastern, because the issues of insecurities, the issues of hospitals, those are the things that we Kenyans and the people of Northeastern want to be addressed first. We cannot be blinded to the fact that we don't know that it's about political interest. I saw in his page, I think yesterday, he met grassroots leaders. What was he talking about? Was he talking about IDs, or was he talking about issues of numbers? So we are clearly, and Kenyans are not Fred, as he likes to say, the president, wajinga walisha Kenya. It is very true. We are very keen and we are very ready. As he plans, we are also planning. Because when he's making sure that his numbers are fitting, we are also making sure that his numbers are dropping by the day. Because our issues as a country are really serious. He cannot be politicking for 20 years, as 10 years, the first 10 years as a deputy president, another 5 years as a president, yet we want progress as a country. Fred, come on.
We have about 9 or 10 minutes or so at least 2 minutes each for your final comments. And it's true, when you look at the politicians and they're positioning themselves, they're looking at the regions, the numbers, they're doing calculations. In fact, I think every politician has bought a new calculator, just looking at region A, B, C, and how the numbers would play for them, even in the Mount Kenyan region. Yet they seem to forget that last year, with the Gen Z rising, this issue about regions was not there. Are they missing the point? Have they gotten lost in their own thinking that these regions are the ones that are going to help them, and forgetting that there is this voting bloc calling itself the Gen Z that actually has a say as well? As you make your final comments.
Yeah, well, Fred, sometimes when you like to brainwash people, unfortunately, you begin to brainwash yourself with time, yeah? And I think the current political class is suffering from that. Right? What you just said, on June 25th, we all united, no tribal fronts, not at your upper class, middle, lower. There was none of that. We're uniting here for one common interest. We want our economic needs as a country to be met. Whether they buy the calculators, whether they redo census, whether they issue out new IDs or so, I'm really hoping that will not play, because they can issue the IDs. They can do all these gimmicks. I think we're looking at a population that is very aware currently. Like, yes, do your theatrics, jump, do your flip-flops, but at the end of the day, we're going to look at what you promised to do and what you deliver. Then we will judge based on that and address it. Are they ignoring the Gen Z voting bloc? I think what's happening is that they really have not found a way to maneuver through the Gen Zs, because Gen Zs are not clothed and bathed and reeking of corruption, tribalism, and all those other things that have been the norm in the political class. So they still don't know how to, woo this new voting bloc. Gen Zs, most of them don't have the scarcity mentality of nikipewa ka job ka 10K ni sawa tu. Why is it that you will give a Gen Z, a well-qualified youth who's gone to school, has experience, you want to pay them 10,000, but another old person, maybe the biggest experience they have is calling you mheshimiwa and reserving you a seat and bringing you maji in public functions. You want to make them chairman of something and pay them maybe a 200 Gs or even more. Yeah, Gen Zs don't have that scarcity mentality, and that's why the drive will continue being there. And as I make my parting shots to the youths, I really hope that we don't back down. Scarcity mentality is a thing that we will leave to these people who've only benefited from corruption. With our new age, we will eat their money. If they bring us their money, we will eat it. But we shall not remember that you gave us money. We shall remember what you promised to do and what you delivered and what you did not deliver. And that is what we will base our voting on.
All right.
Yeah.
Very well said. Thank you. Rejoice, Gen Z was a concern last year. Months later, everyone has moved on. Do you agree with that kind of political thinking?
Fred, no, I do not agree. Everyone has not moved on. The movement is still on. We are strong. We are even stronger, actually. It's only those that have chosen to be blind that are not seen. But soon, they'll be made to see when the reality hits them harder. And and as my parting shot, I would like to say the words of Barack Obama. He said that change will not come if we wait for some other time or some other person. We are actually the change that we seek. And so just to every Kenyan, when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed, just ask yourself, what have you done to help this nation, come from the shackles of poverty, come from these problems that we are facing? If it's corruption, if it's bad governance, have we called ourselves to a meeting and decided that we are done with this bad governance, We are done with this, corruption. We are done with the sources of our problems. Let's not, just deal with the symptoms. Let's also deal with the source of our problems. And also to my fellow Gen Zs, let us be that generation that changed our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rejoice. Fred, what's your feeling? Is the Gen Z movement still there? Is it a force to reckon with? The politicians seem to think hiyo iliisha, moto wa makaratasi, hiyo ni maneno ya mwaka jana. Mwaka huu tumesonga mbele, tuna count watu na calculator.
As per now, in the Gen Z movement, there is that blend of hope, frustration, and also there is hope for change. And this hope for change is still the one driving. And the frustration, if they keep on moving, arising, we will hope for that change. And we are moving from identity-based politics to agenda-based politics from now. And we are also advocating for change in terms of political, in terms of corruption and fixing the governance of the day. Yeah, the movement is still on. It's just a matter of time.
All right.
Yeah.
Naipame, you go next. Can you afford to ignore the Gen Zs? Now that you're speaking from the Kenya Kwanza perspective, can this administration afford to ignore the Gen Zs and start counting people in Western and Northeastern as a voting bloc?
No one is ignoring any population. As a matter of fact, all Kenyans are Kenyans, so they're important to the government, because without them, there won't be government. And also without opposition, who will be holding the government on the toes? So we acknowledge the role of opposition, of Gen Zs, their genuine concern, and it's what we need for a better Kenya. Inclusivity, regional balance, which is what the president is doing, which is pissing off people who have been gatekeepers for development in their own region. So my parting shot will be, as we move forward, we have to be responsible as individuals. In 1961, the great president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, may his soul rest in peace, said during his inauguration, ask yourself, ask not what the government is doing for you, but what you can do for your country. And I'll ask everyone out there, before you raise critiques, before you raise complaints, before you raise negativity, ask yourself, what have you done in your own position? First of all, to change your life. Second, to change your family life. Third, to change your community before you come to national matter. So that is the biggest challenge I'm posing to everyone. And the most important thing is that we are pushing for an agenda of unity as a country, inclusivity, and regional balance, because there is no one who is more Kenyan than another. We are all Kenyan, and we deserve to get equal budgets. We deserve to get equal opportunities for development. And irrespective of who get pissed off, we deserve to get the truth of how many numbers is our population as the Maasai people, as the Somali people in Kenya, and any other minority tribes. So this one goes to naysayers and haters of the government. I am going to support the statement of my boss. If you have never been the president, you don't have a PhD, please don't tell us how to lead. Just watch. If you get a chance, well and good.
Okay.
If you don't, let us do our thing. Thank you.
We've had presidents without PhDs in Kenya. In fact, I think this is only one with a PhD. Nick, you wrap it up for us.
I think where we'll start is where Naipa May has left. Naipa May and the president seem to be forgetting who put them into government. And when the president was coming in, he came in as a humble servant. Now he's a proud leader, or proud boss, as Naipa May is saying. On the issue of we wanting transformation of our country, it's because we are getting taxed by the government of the day, and nobody wants to wish ill of its country. We are just calling out to make sure that we get better healthcare system, to get better education system, to get food on our tables, and to be a happy community, Fred, because these are the issues that we are ailing as a country. And let us not pretend that the government don't need these people. That's why they are on the top of the rooftop trying to convince us. If we did not mean any sense to them, then they will not tell us that they have PhDs. They will not tell us that we cannot teach them their job. They will not tell us that they know better. They still need us, and they know so. But the arrogance and the opulence that they're showing us, we are still waiting for them, because 2027 is still not far, and we are very certain that the government of the day will go home. And finally, as I conclude, because we in the Kenya Hadi Party still strongly believe in haki yako and ahadi yetu, and we are calling on to all the young people who don't have a home, because we realize that of the Gen Z factor that happened on the 25th of June, we covered only up to 1%. Okay. So we need to go to mashinani. We need to do a lot of civilization. We need to do a lot of civic education, rather, Fred, because this is our country, this is our nation, and no one is being chased from this country.
All right.
Thank you so much, Fred.
Nick Mwangi, Secretary General of the Kenya Hadi Party, asante sana. Also, thank you, Miriam Katheo, an auditor. Rejoice Mutheo Mwamba, social scientist, Fred Mukua, ESC Youth MP, and Kaikai Naipame, economist and Kenya Kwanza youth leader. Our panelists this morning on the youth perspective, just trying to understand what the youth think about the big discussions that have been happening this week, from the revocation of the vetting process for IDs in Northeastern region to Trump shutting down USAID, as well as the budget-making process. Thank you for keeping us company after the break. Remember, it is a Feel Good Friday. DJ Granite is in the house, so do expect some music. Remember, too, our sister station, Radio 47, this morning is relaunching its state-of-the-art audiovisual studios. Do stand by for that. You'll be seeing a lot of things that you've never seen before, right here on TV 47. My name is Fred Indemuli. Have a lovely weekend.